Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. Today we bring you some significant news. At 76, King Charles's heartbreaking confession about his true love shocked everyone, following a decade of a controversial love involvement. King Charles 76 surprised the world with an unexpected news. In a very emotional moment, he eventually disclosed a secret he had long hidden. Everyone was astonished by his comments. For the first time in years, King Charles addressed the public in a way like to that of an average person. He spoke like one who had encountered love, suffered loss, and suppressed his feelings. A sincere confession. He spoke about an individual who held significant value to him. He praised his wife Camilla for her support and announced that she will be appointed as his queen consort in acknowledgement of her 17 years of public service. For years, such passion was obscured by palace barriers, royal decrees, and cultural norms. Following decades of isolation, he ultimately disclosed his feelings to the one who significantly influenced him. Many folks were captivated by the identification of his topic, owing to the gloomy tone of his voice and remarks. Was it his long-term companion, Camilla, Princess Diana, the cherished icon and mother of his offspring? Is it possible that the person is unfamiliar to us? King Charles reflected on the significant time wasted, the many chances lost, in the substantial weight of monarchy. He expressed a need for something more genuine. However, his position as a ruler kept it inaccessible. He adhered to the designated route to reach his destination, despite his heart's unwavering allegiance to the one it yearned for. This confession, beyond basic knowledge, it connected with people. Individuals with open hearts listened globally. Some were discouraged, others were amazed, and many contemplated the true nature of King Charles's passion after all these years. Upon the disclosure of royal truth, brace for the unforeseen. The burden of the crown, duty versus love. From the beginning, Prince Charles's life was remarkably captivating. Unlike other children who participated in outdoor pursuits, like playing in the streets, climbing trees, or navigating muddy fields, Charles was nurtured in opulent surroundings, attended by nannies, guards, and royal aides. He had insufficient autonomy in his upbringing. Individuals examined, assessed, and shaped every action, statement, and expression to depict him as a potential sovereign. Before he grasped the concept of responsibility, it altered his life. With the passage of time, the weight of his royal obligations grew. At school, Charles was not only Charles, he was the Prince of Wales and the designated heir. Prince Charles was a student at Gordonstoun from May 1, 1962, until his admission to Cambridge. He could not conduct himself or make mistakes like a typical adolescent without drawing the notice of others. He faced pressure from all sides. He was obligated to sit or engage in conversation, dress, and smile in a certain way. All preparations were finalized and rehearsed. He was born into a wealthy and traditional family. The birth of a son to Princess Elizabeth, the heir apparent, generated much elation. Consequently, love blossomed. Like many young boys, Charles yearned for company. A confidant who, beyond a simple royal acquaintance, holding an intimate understanding of his character, someone who valued his humor, heeded his worries, and provided comfort during difficult times. He encountered a person, however briefly. She imbued him with a sense of genuineness, as well as an appreciation for elegance and appeal. She addressed him as Charles rather than Prince of Wales. We participated in prolonged dialogue, amusement, and reverie. He experienced calm and delight in her company for the first time. The royal family demonstrated affection out of obligation rather than genuine commitment. Aesthetics, heritage, and significance were all significant. The woman whom Charles adored did not adhere to royal standards. The monarchs did not see her as unattractive or ignorant. Instead, they considered her incompatible with their ideal image. The royal advisors expressed their discontent. The family frowned and the tension intensified. Charles reluctantly had to part with her since he could not love her openly. He had to surrender the one who fulfilled him to the crown. Despite others being oblivious to his cries, he experienced great inner sorrow. He placed obligation above enjoyment, cognizant of the forthcoming repercussions. That decision would always haunt him. Charles wed the enchanting young woman, Lady Diana Spencer. The Archbishop of Canterbury characterized the nuptials of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer as a fairy tale. London has now become a relic, notwithstanding the comprehensive security measures implemented by Scotland Yard. The daughter of the rich family was elegant and refined. The public and the monarchy esteemed her. At first, the opulent wedding, the cheering crowd and the beaming grins seemed to evoke a fairy tale. Nevertheless, the opulent curtains of Buckingham Palace obscured another tale. They were coerced into marriage, despite their ignorance of the reasoning. He grappled with the memory of his lost love, while she adapted to her position as a princess. He tried to advance, although his heart remained trapped in the past. Despite Diana's presence, his mind was elsewhere. He could never forget the torment of being unable to choose the woman he loved. Their marriage declined progressively. Diana saw a lack of appreciation from others, whereas Charles sensed a lack of understanding from those around him. The demands of their professions, societal scrutiny, and personal grief were insurmountable. Each person mourned in their own way. Nonetheless, the populace, first enchanted by the royal wedding, discerned the superficiality behind the opulence. Charles acquiesced to the crown's mandates. Nonetheless, he forfeited a segment of his personality in the process. He left the individual who comprehended him. Despite wearing royal garments and participating in lavish events, his eyes always conveyed grief, symbolizing the price of valuing duty above love. Diana and public eye. A complicated affection narrative. People around expressed elation at the nuptials of Princess Diana and Prince Charles. Flags, applause, and jubilant tears embellished the streets. Millions of fans saw what seemed to be a quintessential royal fairy tale on television. Diana at 20 was exuberant and full of enthusiasm. She wore an elegant white gown while Charles stood behind her in his royal garments. Observers saw it as an eccentric nuptial celebration. The world remained unaware of the tempest quietly gathering outside the royal walls. At the outset, Charles and Diana had a rocky relationship. They sprang from many locales, sentiments, and philosophies. Diana conveyed her emotions to us. She needed compassion, support, and comfort. She sought a partner that really loved her, evoked laughter, and offered support during difficult times. Charles was nurtured in an atmosphere where emotions were repressed. He developed the capacity to maintain composure, execute his responsibilities, and inhibit his emotions from interfering. Despite all their efforts, an indefinable void lingered in their connection. They expressed their feelings via various methods. Conversations often lacked warmth. Diana sobbed because of her passion for him, but Charles stayed mute owing to his inability to express his emotions. He loved her, despite a part of his heart being eternally committed to another. Camilla Parker Bowles. Charles met Camilla before to his meeting with Diana. She surpassed the function of a simple companion. Camilla elucidates the mystery surrounding her 2-decade marriage to Charles III. The Queen Consort addressed the elements that have preserved the vitality of their marriage from its inception in 2005. This was Charles's second marriage after his 1996 divorce from Princess Diana. She was his most trusted confidant and understood him without verbal communication. Charles and Diana maintained closeness after their marriage. The obscurity made the union hard to see. Diana pondered. She has enough knowledge to determine that her boyfriend was infatuated with another person. Her eyes progressively lost their brilliance. She was alone inside an ornate confinement, and it caused her distress. She was harmed not just by love, but also by indifference, misunderstanding, and exclusion from another story. Diana said in a significant interview, "You will never be queen. I do not possess the capability." Adverse. What underpins your rationale? I seek to influence the emotions of individuals, but not this country. She said this marriage involved 3 individuals with a profound sense of sorrow. It was clearly obvious that she was alluding to Camilla, a proclamation that reverberates with the force of lightning. The allure of individuals' fairy stories waned. Diana's internal conflicts were very evident. Charles found himself in a dilemma. He was a someone who sought to alleviate Diana's misery. Nonetheless, he also valued Camilla. Despite all his attempts to forget, Camilla had a profound comprehension of him. He had no malicious intent, but his eagerness to placate resulted in pain for everyone. The romantic involvement of Charles, Diana, and Camilla emerged as one of the most infamous royal scandals. Diana sobbed quietly. Charles walked with a heavy heart, while Camilla lingered in the shadows, hesitant to expose herself in public, owing to fears of scrutiny. A plethora of theories permeated the media, with photographers diligently pursuing them. All three encountered considerable pressure. Charles and Diana had a separation. Their marriage was nearing disintegration. The world saw the culmination of their distinguished relationship. Consequently, they divorced, so dissolving their royal marriage. The predicament was troubling for the newlyweds and for the nation desiring progress. Buckingham Palace announced with sorrow that the Prince and Princess of Wales have parted ways. Their Royal Highnesses chose not to pursue divorce and upheld their constitutional responsibilities. Diana has always been cherished by the people. Her fame surged after the divorce. She exemplified compassion, grace, and understated perseverance. She emphasized critical issues and motivated people globally with her voice. The world lamented her demise in 1997. Charles endured intense suffering, regret, and guilt. He lost Diana, a woman of importance to him despite their intermittent conflicts. He valued her, although he found it difficult to fully accept her. He was influenced by royal duty, historical circumstances, and societal sentiment. It was a bittersweet but joyous love story. Individuals persist in remembering the harshness and difficulty of those years thereafter. Camilla, shadow attendant. Camilla Parker Bowles functioned as Charles's anchor confidant in personal connection. They commenced their account before anybody was cognizant of Diana. Charles and Camilla met in the early 1970s. They were oblivious to the impending changes in their life and the ways in which time and duty would test their love. Nevertheless, it was evident from the outset that they were interconnected. A deep, instantaneous connection was formed. Charles was able to articulate himself well with Camilla. No one seems to understand how they smiled, engaged in lengthy conversations, and enjoyed one another's presence. Camilla had beauty and a deep comprehension of royal existence, an insight seldom seen among Charles's companions. Not just another person inside the crowd. Charles did not mislead Camilla. Their connection seemed seamless and intuitive. They had a bond, although the royal family impeded it. As the potential ruler of England, Charles bore duties that were difficult to comprehend. One of their duties was to marry a woman of regal stature who would maintain the royal family's image and meet societal expectations. In contrast, Camilla did not adhere to such stereotype. The royal family resisted the revelation of their queen's lineage. Charles was obligated to marry a more aristocratic person despite their shared devotion. In 1981, Charles married Lady Diana Spencer, an occurrence that seemed to fulfill a fantasy. Charles had reserved a segment of his affection for Camilla, signifying his incomplete dedication to the marriage. The romance stories of Charles and Camilla were unique. She subsequently wed Andrew Parker Bowles, an officer in the British Army. Charles and Camilla's devotion endured, although subtly. The marriage between Charles and Diana deteriorated over time. Notwithstanding their royal obligations and ostensibly perfect union, Charles and Diana were increasingly drifting apart. Charles endured significant emotional distress. Notwithstanding his royal obligations, Charles was consumed by thoughts of Camilla. He and Camilla continued to communicate after his marriage to Diana. Their bond deepened. The friendship transformed into a secret romance. Nevertheless, speculation continued. The truth surfaced as the media speculated and individuals murmured. The public became aware of Charles and Camilla's connection. Individuals were both astonished and enraged by the presentation of the news. A multitude of folks saw Camilla as the paramour accountable for the disintegration of the royal marriage. The affair's influence on Diana was unmistakably clear. Camilla maintained her loyalty to Charles despite experiencing wrath, pain, and criticism. She did not escape from the storm. Instead, she endured everything with him. Charles's life saw a significant alteration after Diana's death in 1997. A vehicular crash in Paris led to the demise of Diana, Princess of Wales. He underwent a transformation with the demise of his long-term partner. His memories of his marriage to Diana were infused with both tenderness and regret. Camilla provided unwavering support to him continuously. Charles progressively reintroduced her to royal life. The issue was difficult because of the differing views others had on her. Some persons persisted in assigning blame to her for the dissolution of Charles and Diana's marriage, but others held another viewpoint. Charles was unequivocal. He saw that their affection was genuine and warranted effort. Observers have meticulously examined Charles and Camilla's relationship for years, and the royal family had considerable hopes for them. They were married in 2005. The ceremony was personal and modest, unlike other royal weddings. Nonetheless, it signified the start of a new chapter in their lives. Charles eventually achieved serenity upon marrying Camilla. He may finally be with the lady he loved, who had always supported him. At 76, Charles persists in praising Camilla, lauding her steadfast support. Their love tale, albeit flawed, is genuine. Camilla faced public condemnation and extended solitude in silence for several years. Irrespective of circumstances, Mary and Charles always maintained their passion for one another. In his last confession, Charles referenced something astonishing. Camilla has always backed Charles. Nonetheless, his deepest attachment may have an unclear history. The identity of the mysterious woman remains undisclosed to the public. King Charles surprised the world by declaring, "The love of my life is someone with whom I never had the chance to age." At first, his assertion seems reasonable. He presumably alluded to Camilla, who has been at his side for a considerable duration. They were advancing in age together in their late 70s, having withstood several adversities and royal responsibilities. He could have been alluding to his first wife, Diana, with whom he had a difficult and public marriage. Diana passed away in 1997. Whom else might he be alluding to? Authorities regarding the royal family, the media, and the public all possess distinct viewpoints about the issue. Did Charles possess a concealed romantic partner? Woman who is entirely disregarded, a person who possesses Charles's adoration, has yet to reveal their romantic history to anybody. This notion has acquired appeal throughout time, and while the details remain unclear, this secret romance has never been disregarded. Before his marriage to Diana, Charles may have had feelings for a woman who did not adhere to royal conventions. She was astute, compassionate, and autonomous. She had no aspiration for renown or aristocracy. Significantly, she had no inclination to undertake the position of queen. She valued Charles for his humanity more than his royalty. Charles must have deemed it unusual given his domicile. Charles's speech on wasted possibilities and the unfulfilled future leads me to ponder if he was contemplating this unreciprocated affection. Did he lament the devotion that remained unfulfilled owing to royal duties? It is distressing to contemplate that obligation may obliterate a deep, genuine affection. Many persons were astonished by Charles's frank and passionate confession, since he had always been a severe and distant person. It served as a reminder that even rulers living in lavish palaces and enjoying considerable money may encounter regret, endure losses, and lose opportunities. This facet of his existence beyond simple royal confidentiality. It is a globally relevant story including love sacrifice and the heart-rending truth that we may lose what is most treasured while having plenty. Charles seeks to express his life, regrets to everyone. One could hardly overlook King Charles's love as he spoke about it. On behalf of my entire family, I convey our deepest and most heartfelt gratitude. His tone was heavy, suggesting that he was conveying more than just compassion. He assessed his options, paths, and substantial sacrifices. He articulated facets of his existence that are mostly obscured from the perception of others. He was articulating the love he has yearned for and continues to feel in his heart after all these years. Individuals assert that rulers own castles, riches, unparalleled luxury, and substantial power. Nevertheless, Charles's comments deconstructed that notion and reminded everybody that kingship entails more than just wealth or power. It includes more than only opulent mansions and lavish events. Charles responded negatively. Being a monarch necessitates the everyday execution of one's duties. Life-altering decisions affect both oneself and others. Occasionally, selecting such decisions proves to be difficult. This indicates a predestined life from birth with less opportunity for personal desires or fulfillment. Charles recognized the significance of obligation throughout his adolescence. He was fated for the monarchy. He placed the royal family above everything else, even his personal gratification. He lacked autonomy in his decision-making. Royal decrees often obstructed his relationships, unions, and intimate friendships. He often prioritized other concerns above love. Charles's acknowledgement highlighted the difficulties of navigating a life characterized by obligation. He informed everyone that he often abandoned his aspirations to meet the demands of the royal family. Charles's words clarified that he incurred a significant expense for his privilege, including his enjoyment and the freedom to choose his adored. Charles is devoted to more than just Camilla and Diana. It explores farther. He revered a woman whose identity is undisclosed, embodying an ideal that Charles could never achieve. He revered her and experienced fulfillment in her company. Nevertheless, she was unfit for the throne. He was compelled to surrender her, just as he was obliged to yield numerous other issues. This decision haunted him for the rest of his life and negatively impacted the relationship between Diana and Charles. Notwithstanding the wedding's idyllic facade, the newlyweds had difficulties from the beginning. Charles's affiliation with Camilla Parker Bowles originally complicated their relationship. Subsequent to this betrayal, Diana experienced embarrassment, insecurity, and a perception of being undervalued as a spouse and partner. In her notebook, she recorded the challenges she had in managing Charles's emotional aloofness and lack of commitment. The go-to-hell moment was not triggered by a single confrontation. Instead, it resulted from years of emotional neglect and unresolved problems. Diana recognized Charles's connection with Camilla, but the royal family's need to provide an impression of normality inhibited her from acting. She was meant to be the quintessential husband and mom. Unfortunately, she disregarded her own needs. Diana articulated her sentiments of isolation and neglect, stemming from the unreturned love of her sought individual. Diana had already expressed apprehensions over Charles's association with Camilla, but the pivotal moment came during a dispute with him on the matter. This argument encapsulated her feelings, making it one of the most emotional passages in her diaries. Charles depicted Diana as irrational and passionate, intensifying the conflict. Diana documented in her notebook that this was the worst provocation. He acted as if my emotions were trivial. I had reached my limit. They often overlooked each other's feelings. Diana often expressed her belief that Charles was apathetic, especially towards Camilla. Charles seldom addressed their marriage, even her efforts to initiate dialogue on the subject. Diana independently addressed her challenges. She said, "I have explored all options, engaged in dialogue, expressed my sorrow, and even beseeched him to understand, but to no effect." Royal demands often rendered Diana feeling restricted, both emotionally and physically. She chronicled in her diary the challenge of discovering her voice inside a palace where her obligations as a wife and mother occupied the majority of her time. One post suggests that Charles demeaned her by ridiculing her in front of others. She said, "He may find it entertaining, but I do not. I feel as though I am suffering internally and he remains unaware." This kind of emotional neglect significantly impacted Diana and provoked her fury, leading her to write, "Go to hell" in her diary. She opposed the repressive regime that had muted her for a prolonged duration. She said, "I am an individual, not simply his wife. I have the right to express myself." Diana articulated her perception of Charles's jealousy about her accomplishments and expressed that his association with Camilla Parker Bowles induced her worry. These factors culminated in the dissolution of their marriage and caused Diana much distress. Diana attained global fame shortly after their marriage. Charles was astonished by how her beauty, charm, and benevolence captivated everyone worldwide. The millions who adored her exacerbated their already tenuous relationship. Diana's journal reveals her appreciation for external validation, while her husband had feelings of jealousy. She said that Charles's demeanor altered as her fame increased. She said, "He dislikes that they prefer me over him. I perceive it in public." Diana said that Charles was concerned about his position within the royal family and the kind of public scrutiny he was receiving. He allowed jealousy to infiltrate their personal life. Diana stated that Charles mocked her appearance and belittled her royal responsibilities. She recorded in her journal that he said her popularity stemmed from her youth and beauty rather than her competence in her field. Diana had feelings of neglect and bewilderment about the remarks of others. Although she desired her husband's appreciation, she perceived that he consistently belittled her. Diana believes that Charles may have used her status to benefit the royal family rather than compromising his own dignity. Charles's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles negatively impacted their marriage. Diana endured this betrayal for years. Before public knowledge, she was aware of his emotions for Camilla. She persistently questioned the connection, but he remained unresponsive. Diana remembers inquiring of Charles on his affection for Camilla, which caused her pain. He said, "What do you expect me to do?" Her journal illustrates the depth of her distress as she contends with emotions of inadequacy and betrayal. She said, "I perceive that she exerts control over me. In spite of my endeavors, he invariably seeks her? Diana's journal entries illustrate a lady grappling with the emotional weight of acknowledging that her husband's emotions are oriented towards another. Diana was discontented with Charles and their situation when it became evident that he was involved with Camilla. Her journal recounts her desperation in a loveless marriage while striving to please royalty. Diana said, "I feel suffocated in this existence." She was struggling inside as she was compelled to maintain a front of happiness while her husband was enamored with another woman. Diana had bulimia and suicidal ideation. Individuals with eating disorders such as anorexia and bulimia exhibit self-harm as a coping mechanism for their issues. She concealed her issues from the public by projecting an image of elegance, although her notebooks revealed the truth. She described how even her closest friends, particularly Charles, neglected her, resulting in feelings of isolation and alienation. She said, "There are perpetually individuals in my vicinity. I have never had such profound solitude." Diana said, "I feel as though I am disintegrating internally due to the pressure to be flawless." As her marriage deteriorated, her despair intensified, leading her to contemplate suicide. In a poignant statement, she said that she contemplated suicide at the top of the steps of Kensington Palace. "I was exceedingly fatigued," she said, "tired of feigning, wounded and fatigued. When I see myself as inconsequential, I get fatigue." Diana's bulimia, initially a coping strategy for her status as a princess, exacerbated throughout her difficult marriage. She saw that the disorder gave her a feeling of control amongst her tumultuous existence. "It was the sole aspect I could govern," she said. Charles's comments about her weight and looks intensified her self-esteem problems, resulting in heightened discomfort. Diana documented in a diary note that Charles had characterized her as overweight, which profoundly affected her. "I perceived myself as insignificant," she wrote. Diana expressed regret. "Regardless of my efforts, I could never satisfy his expectations." She subjected herself to self-punishment via her eating illness. Her journal states, "I wished to vanish, believing that if I diminished myself, the pain would dissipate." The conflict she faced with her mental and physical state during this arduous time is both poignant and forthright. Diana documented in her journal her intense feeling of loneliness, even her seeming sorrow. She expressed sorrow about the lack of aid when she needed it, stating, "They don't care." This absence of emotional support intensified her isolation, forcing her to address her mental health issues alone. The demands of royal existence, along with Charles' emotional disregard, exacerbated her melancholy, suicidal thoughts and bulimia. She articulated her anguish, declaring, "I am uncertain how much longer I can endure this," emphasizing the adverse effect on her mental state. Nonetheless, Diana demonstrated tenacity at her most challenging times as her writings revealed her unyielding character. She confidently said, "They will not defeat me," asserting, "I possess greater strength than they perceive." William and Harry were profoundly affected by Diana's difficulties. The young men concealed their distress despite much of the emotional upheaval being obscured from their awareness. Subsequently, Prince William articulated the difficulty of openly grieving his mother at her burial. Due to cultural pressure, they were compelled to exhibit their own distress. William recounted his last conversation with Diana before her death. He remembered how the talk ended prematurely as he and Harry anticipated playing outdoors, aware it would be their last opportunity. William regretted not having conversed with her more often. This monument prompted reflection on the brevity of life. In the HBO documentary Diana, Our Mother William discussed the profound impact of her loss on his life. During his youth, his mother took him to a homeless shelter, which really saddened him. He had enough time to process his loss despite the presence of his family. He struggled to comprehend the gravity of the situation due to his young age. Diana described the profound anguish she experienced throughout her marriage, particularly in light of Charles's infidelity and emotional distance. William and Harry likely had familial issues throughout their childhood. However, now that they are adults, they comprehend the difficulties their mother faced. Diana's journal writings reveal her profound misery, mostly stemming from her tumultuous relationship with Charles. These annotations provide a clearer understanding of her life and impact. William and Harry could own a divergent perspective of their father, now that they are aware of these revelations. The two princes have shown ambivalence for Charles, despite their admiration for him as a father and prospective monarch. Diana's experiences have undoubtedly influenced her feelings for him. William, the primogeniture and successor, often engages in negotiations. Does he possess an option? William has openly endorsed his father and the monarchy while also paying tribute to his mother. William may experience the burden of Diana's diaries as he tries to balance his royal responsibilities with honoring her legacy. During his upbringing, William often discussed Diana's principles of compassion, generosity, and responsibility. The melancholic entries in her notebooks may have intensified his resolve to adhere to such notions, despite the turmoil they inflicted upon his family. Diana's difficulties seem to have significantly impacted Harry. He often addresses her challenges, including public criticism and the limitations of royal existence. His decision to abdicate royal responsibilities in order to prioritize his family's welfare reflects Diana's own experiences of feeling restricted by the monarchy. Harry may have been influenced by the journal's contemplations on her grief, motivating him to dedicate himself to protecting his family and establishing an autonomous course. Notwithstanding periodic disputes, both William and Harry esteem Diana's legacy highly. She is honored via her oratory, philanthropic activities, and support for her ideals. The revelations from her diaries have bolstered their goal. The princes want to commemorate Diana as a tenacious and compassionate person, rather than only as a member of royalty. Her personal challenges expressed in her private writings inspire them to commemorate her legacy and disseminate her story. Diana was aware of Charles's closeness to Camilla before their nuptials. This troubling disclosure often manifested in Diana's journal. She said, "I always suspected there was another in his heart." Even on their wedding day, she felt as if she was competing for his attention. Diana was profoundly distressed by her apparent insignificance in the marriage. Her notebook delineates the disputes she had with Charles over Camilla. Diana expressed her anguish in a poignant entry, questioning, "Why her, and does she possess something I lack?" Her notes disclose her turmoil as she contended with her love for Charles and his infidelity. During conflicts, Diana often felt alienated and betrayed when Charles withdrew. She observed that after disputes, Charles frequently displayed apathy towards her distress, reflecting, "He excluded me and made me feel like an outsider in his domain." Diana struggled with her identity at these times, longing to return to her previous self and person, overwhelmed by a profound hunger for his attention and overshadowed by another. Often likened to Camilla, her already decreased self-esteem rapidly declined, affecting her capacity to feel valued by the one she loves. Diana endured significant anguish as Camilla's prominence escalated throughout their social circles. She reflects on visiting events featuring Camilla seeing herself as the only one devoid of information. Diana and Charles had a short reconciliation after the birth of Harry. The father, satisfied and rejuvenated, came first that morning. Charles's feelings for Camilla re-emerged, making their pleasure transient. His affection for Camilla overshadowed Diana's efforts to reconcile their marriage. This profound betrayal shattered Diana, annihilating her trust. It was one of the most distressing events of her life. Diana said that addressing Camilla at a birthday celebration in 1989 was one of the most brazen moves she performed throughout her 10-year marriage. Notwithstanding her courage, the connection between Charles and Camilla deepened. The public disclosure of Charles and Camilla's 1989 telephone conversation precipitated the Camilla-gate controversy, intensifying Diana's anguish. The revelation of their affair damaged Camilla's image and provoked a media frenzy. Public attention grew around Camilla subsequent to her marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles. In a rare confession, Prince Charles admitted to his adultery during a televised interview with Jonathan Dimbleby, claiming that he loved Diana until their marriage became untenable. Diana articulated the turbulent dynamics of her marriage in a 1995 BBC Panorama interview. She said that Camilla, an external entity, intensified the complexity of their relationship. Diana conveyed sentiments of alienation and insufficiency while trying to conceal her distress about Charles's betrayal. Despite enduring emotional betrayal, she felt obligated to maintain the illusion of a perfect royal marriage. Diana chronicled her mental distress in her journal, which arose from the absence of support and Charles's physical infidelity. She saw that Charles often seemed emotionally aloof, exacerbating her feelings of isolation. She observed, "I can discern that his thoughts are elsewhere, even in our presence perpetually with her." Her words convey her profound loneliness, throughout her relationship with a woman acquainted with Charles both before, to, and after their marriage. On December 9, 1992, Prince Charles and Princess Diana separated, marking a significant event for the royal family. Prime Minister John Major announced to the House of Commons that Diana and Charles had consented to co-parent Prince William and Prince Harry. Queen Elizabeth II instructed them to separate, indicating that they remained amicable. The duo attended the 50th anniversary commemoration of the Battle of the Atlantic on May 30, 1993. This prompted speculation in the media and among the public over their reconciliation. Diana and Charles disembarked from the royal yacht Britannia and attended a service in the biggest Anglican cathedral in the world, smiling as they did so. Although this was their last public appearance, their display of solidarity instilled hope in many others. On December 25, 1993, Diana took a stroll with the royal family on Christmas Day. Diana chronicled her experiences to enhance her self-esteem, notwithstanding the mental distress induced by Charles's connection with Camilla. This treachery greatly impacted her, although her journal writings demonstrate her fortitude. Diana saw herself as a tough woman facing treachery, loneliness, and the constraints of her royal station. Her steadfast dedication, especially to her children and obligations, was praiseworthy. Diana managed the significant demands of her position with poise and resilience, even during times of weakness. Her private writings disclose the hidden truths of her life, constantly examined by the public. She felt obligated to preserve a flawless facade while contending with her difficulties. Diana persisted, showing her ability to endure significant pressure. Despite the need of exhibiting perfection, she acknowledged her humanity. Her works openly conveyed her own suffering, but she persisted in moving forward. "I may not be flawless, but I strive to excel," she said. "That is the extent of my capabilities." Thank you for seeing the video. Kindly share your opinions and farewell for now.